All right. Hello, hello. Welcome on Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. And we're gonna jump into the session in a moment. Let me just recap what we covered yesterday slightly, so everybody is in the same page. I'm gonna go through the slides as well, a few slides, but the conversation that is gonna take place today is probably the more important. It looks like we might not have a conversational aspect. I got some questions from the emails and individuals that reached out, but they cannot be live on our workshop today. We'll be rebooting and redoing another one with Dr. John, probably in 30 days, specifically to ensure that the training is gonna go and spread the message about this ecosystem. Because today I will also share a little bit more about the caregiving as well as the aspects of abundance health systems and how simple solutions can help a lot of families. So we'll cover that today. Give me a second. I'm opening up the presentation right now, so we can jump into it. So we've got the content and the conversation access as well. But I just don't want to underestimate this platform, and thank you, Sal, for broadcasting this to YouTube, and we basically want to share the information about what is going on right now from the perspective of AI deployments in other organizations. And I strongly encourage those that have small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and for the corporations, we do have different tracks. But we created an ecosystem so you have the access to the open office hours during the week. That's the most important. That with the link that you have for AI 2026, treat it as a portal for yourself. Treat it as a place where you can get more information, and I'll share about the community and really what the community in a box product is, how I envision to be deploying it, and really pulling it all together with the wonderful strategies and the paths that I was able to analyze for the last year fully. So now I know what we are deploying, what kind of training we can provide, and we do have a great team behind it. The team is virtual. That's why we are really doing the meetings virtually. But I always encourage anyone to be attending business networking meetings and meetings that take place in your village, in your city, going towards that civic duty today, specifically from the perspective of the discussions and what is happening in a city of Chicago as well, from the crime perspective, and really what are the solutions for the law enforcement, what are the solutions for the leaders in organizations to ensure that the threats are eliminated, but it's a continuous work. That's why we do provide powerful train the trainer training. And this is a big part of the academy, incubator, and accelerator. So let me just, I'm gonna turn this off, Sal. So you are up, Sal, for a second. I need to find the slides that are not deployed. I closed this, not good. I need to mute for a second so I can prompt my agent. I am not gonna be able to, yeah. So let me do that. Let me do that live. So I need to ask a quick question, but I got only, it's not clicking the right way. So let me talk with the agent for a second. Hey, Chief, thank you for providing all those clickable and downloadable links. I still cannot click on that day one presentation. I reviewed that, and at this point, it is not opening. It's still opening in your internal browser, which is not what we need. We need that part of the cockpit and the solutions that we built. Thank you. So as you see, I'm trying to talk with the AI almost like with employees, almost like with virtual assistants, because that is my path, right? So 20 years doing work and leveraging really the solutions that can be accomplished with the virtual teams. We can train the virtual teams, and we also provide the solutions for the BPO offices. The reason that I am doing the wellness trips is really to connect with other professionals at so much different level to ensure that that everyone understands the solutions and understands the systems. Because today we're gonna be talking a little bit more. No, that's we're supposed to be building. So that's not a presentation. I'm sorry. This is live room, so let's make sure that that this is I'm getting the right slides. I'm gonna stop sharing because I know that I had that open. So I just you see how many windows I got open, or it is required to shut that computer down once a day, because otherwise stuff is getting eerie. And the agents do understand that. The agents that are on your computer do understand that. So we'll talk about the differences about using those different LLM models one way or another. But before I go there, I really wanted to ensure that I will show you guys a survey, because this is the simplest way to get assessed on where you're at in your AI journey. And we don't have to really call it AI journey. It's a reiteration of the technology. So it's good for anybody to have an assessment, and we provide also a personalized roadmap based on this. So you can always take that survey, and it's about 8 minutes. They're very, very powerful questions. So I can get much better understanding of either your organization needs from the perspective of AI deployment or AI arbitrage or consultancy specifically. And if you are a small business owner and you're doing it all by yourself right now, well, we obviously have the solutions. What I developed, and I know what the better path for the small business owners is, specifically to ensure that you actually bring those setups on your computers, on your equipment, for the cost savings. And we'll be talking about the cost savings, how the cost savings can be achieved for the family or for the organizations. This is a fantastic time to be really looking into this with the right mindset and with the right perspective. Gonna go stop share, and I still don't have that. So type need day 2. Let's go. The game plan. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna Sal, can we play some there we go. Now I got this. Alrighty, let's go. Okay, so talking about the humans, and yesterday we tried to figure out where your week goes as far as the assignments, duties, and responsibilities, And today, this is the part that nobody teaches, basically how people behave before something goes wrong and what to put in writing so an organization can act on it and resolve the problems. So today's session is truly for leaders, founders, entrepreneurs. We keep this and it will be free, and it is recorded, and within the portal you can always come back to it or get the blueprints or our downloadable materials from the community. Few things that I'm gonna be repeating at every session. So this session is recorded and broadcasted. If you speak or appear on a camera, you are consenting to that. Pure Experts programs are private professional education, not accredited by any college, university, or accrediting body in the United States. Nothing here is legal, tax, medical, clinical, or investment advice. An offer of securities or a promise of any business or financial results. CAPS is a scientifically reliable behavioral framework, not a clinical or diagnostic instrument. We do not diagnose, we do not treat. Everything operates under the block by block AI Safety and Security Alliance standards, legal, ethical, moral. So let's talk about the readiness gap, and that's why the survey is important. So we can know how to close that gap for you, and that's always available. But let's talk about really what's going on in organizations currently. So confidence went up, and year by year, I think the confidence of business owners and leaders to leverage technology is going up. At this point, about 81% believe that AI can help achieve business goals, and this is about 10% up. But I think it's going really, really more exponentially, and I think most of the business owners will grasp it fully by the end of this year, or even earlier. So, but the gap is that only 27%, are talking about inside of the company, which I truly believe is gonna be changing also very, very quickly. The excuse, well, 35% still say they have no time to evaluate the pros and cons, unchanged in a year. And I hope that that you are not working for those organizations, but if you do, please reach out. We really provide a great consultancy as far as that initial setup from that perspective. And the source is the WSI surveys and a lot of research. I am licensed independent consultant in a WSI network. So this is data that we have access to, and I am always willing to share it. So the gap, familiar is not the same as trained. So you might be saying, oh yeah, our employees are using something. What are they using? Do you have guardrails? But for the familiarity, about 60%, right now, yeah, I'm familiar because you've been using it probably for a year or two. Those that have been using the technology for even longer, they're coming up with the great ideas right now, and I love that time. It is just a simple training that you need to embed in your organization to ensure that that all members of your team and your whole organization understands the opportunities and benefits. And training, that's where the training comes. So those are familiar people are completed no formal training at all. And I'm doing a formal and informal trainings. I do take private clients. I do take a longer term engagements, because now we do have a specific time for those blocks. but I will explain it about cohort creations, as that is going to be the most effective program that I can think of. So the boss is the least trained person in a building. You know what? I do have to agree. You know, the owners that are confident in AI, well, they're there, but owners that are formally trained, well, it's only about 40%. So everybody is coming up with their own solutions, possibly without the standards, possibly without the guardrails. I know that the legal research and development is always the most important. So if you want to connect with us, what research and development we're doing is really looking at the legislative process, because as a business owners, well, we need to be looking at it the most and the closest. I am expecting that each state will have completely different regulations when it comes to the privacy and AI doing the work for others or instead of others, and that is still very, very important to achieve for everybody. So what I'm saying, that your team might be ahead of you, unsupervised, with no policy. So this is not a tooling problem. This is exposure to your organization. Yeah, and you are only as an AI enabled as your weakest department, right? So you can have the management fully leveraging it, but if you got HR and finance and accounting, they still doing stuff on a spreadsheet and they not gonna change or use or leverage systems that each organization can now build custom systems. And that's what we really do with the AI arbitrage, because the tools and solutions that you can house inside of your facility can be revolutionary, and you really don't need to be, you know, paying for the big SaaS packages or software packages. That's how we help business owners to have all those scaffolding built either on their computers or specifically in a sandboxed environment that make it all important and looking together from the HR and finance perspective, because that's where the problem is, right? Those that are making decisions, I don't want to use the AI sometimes, and that's the gap. So get to our short workshops, because those are gonna resolve those problems for you, but also get me talking with your teams, get me talking with your leadership team specifically about those gaps. And that's what we can accomplish right now, either virtually or I can travel and go to any organization right now. Your industry is already moving, right? Every industry is moving. So I'm definitely close to that real estate industry, because that's how I started with the automations and really marketing, sales. But pulling it all together, I see still the biggest opportunities from the marketing perspective, but really providing value and providing training to the communities, to your maybe employees, because I truly believe that workplace should be a tight niche community with the great mission statements, where the leaders are looking towards safety and security of their employees always. And legal services for sure. So if you are operating right now a law group or legal services, this is actually the community in a box product and the business in a box product that I'll explain briefly today would fit absolutely fantastically for your legal services business. Food and beverage, yeah, that's also where the biggest opportunities are, right? This is the automation, and we're seeing this happening quicker than I think everybody ever thought that it will take place this way. And I'm thrilled because I'm waiting for the robots, and I'll explain that when it comes to the home care and healthcare industry as well. All right, so this is it, right? The small organizations, 1 to 10 employees, 65 views, but in a corporations, well, it's becoming a standard because the business owners do understand it, but the gap is closing. If you want to close your gap much quicker with the solutions or some smart systems that we are building, this is the way to go. 3 questions, and this is the questions that I'm asking always when we go through the discovery session, and to ensure that that there is a full understanding of the principles and fully knowledgeable from the legal, ethical, and moral perspective. So, from the legal, whose data it is, right? You got your clients' records, employee files, health information. Depending what you do, if you do not email it to a stranger, well, do not paste it in your tool, because if you using tools that you don't understand the source of, it is now almost like putting it on an open internet. So free tools may train on what you give them. So that is the difference. We went through that phase already. Yes, those models still gonna be learning, but now the paid ones and the really what is available from the higher level LLM practices, it's all getting combined, right? The deals are being made in organizations right now like crazy because of the continuity of the information, and that's why well, ChatGPT and Anthropic are really doing the same thing, slightly different, but those solutions are coming to become almost the same for all of those software pieces. And what we do, we really want you to do it in an ethical way. So would I say this out loud, right? I'm saying this out loud because I truly believe there's a difference. There's a conversion happening right now. And business owners and the families, frankly, who are not going to be looking into it or leaning into that technology will have, well, I think, hard time. And we're starting to see that as well. So who carries it if it's wrong, right? You always are responsible for human lives. If you are a business owner, that's the biggest responsibility for you. And you need to protect individuals. And it just happens to be that from the security and safety perspective, well, Dr. John will be able to explain fully the methodology, but I want you to think about it. This is a prevention. The same way as you need to close the gap in AI, there's just no other way but to get in a training mode and really discover and start doing and providing those resources to others. So I do this in person and not from a slide. For me, the sharing information always requires communication. It's hard to do it through the TV, but it has been done through the TV for many years. I and Sal and Total Wellness TV, we're really inviting you to that conversation. The topic today is really well, it's really 30 years of my career as well as a security professional. So I'll be happy to share some resources and some tips for business owners, HR leaders, how to specifically use that technology right now, along the way with the courses, workshops, and certification programs that can be easily customized to your business and opportunity. So the problem, generic training does not survive contact with your desk. We set it up while you watch, and that is the most important. When you come for the discovery call, it is for me, process starts, because that's how my mind works as well. When I'm reaching out to somebody and I'm having conversation with the individual, well, I really want to help them. I want to be a competent and caring person towards them, because that helps to establish those relationships. And what you will own at the end, you will own the system, and not a subscription to me. The subscriptions are really for the education fully, but you will have your guardrails written down. You will have named owners of the policies, and you will know that somebody from your team will be also able to join our trainings and really show you how you can implement AI campus strategies or AI academy strategies within your organization. So the maturity ladder. And so let's close this fully. Find your rank honestly. So stage one, you are exploring, right? Everyone is curious, but nobody owns it. Nothing is written. If you're in that exploration phase, you are a little bit behind, but nothing is lost. That's why the 2026 is such a fantastic year from the opportunity perspective for the businesses, as well as business process improvement with the AI tools. Stage two, you are experimenting. So individuals using tools privately. So that's the threat for your organization. If you have employees using tools privately, no policy, no visibility, this is a real exposure that you need to close that gap. Number three, enabled. So training exists, guardrails exist, and the work has started to change shape. And what we are doing, we're going to give you that enablement, and we're going to give you empowerment. So empowered, basically everyone speaks the same language. Adoption compounds instead of resetting. Employees are receiving proper communication, proper training, and that's what we are setting up inside of the organizations. But almost very few businesses do that aspect right, because this should be taken as a complete change management. And if you tie it with some other programs in your organization, and for me, it goes hand in hand with safety and security programs. I know that's what I have been doing for quite a while, but the responsibilities were always different. And but the protection of human life and safety, ensuring that there are no injuries at the workplace, that is exactly how AI can enhance that. It still requires proper training and strategies that needs to be implemented in the organizations, as well as for the small business owners. So who is responsible for AI safety in your organization? I'm really asking this question to quite a few people right now, and that's how we spark the conversation. So ask if any organization with more than 10 people. So the honest answer is almost nobody specifically, unless you really spend a year or two with the proper budgeting and proper policy. So not because people are careless, because it was never assigned, and everyone assumed it belonged to someone else. That's the organizational structures. Gap one, no written policy. Start, decide, daily what data to paste. You cannot run the business this way. Gap two, no named owner. So authority and accountability still is required. Committees, if you run committees, you can really do accomplish quite a lot through the committee work, but you still need the chairman. You need somebody that will be pushing this forward. And now those committees can leverage all those great tools for the discussion as well as resolving problems. And the gap three is that there is no record, so nothing is evidenced, and what you cannot show later. So not it looks like you didn't work, right? Because the project went sideways, and you were not able to get to the savings, cost savings, or productivity improvement. 4 ways this is already going wrong in many organizations. So the quiet bridge. So employee uses AI tool to process client data. No policy exists. No training was given. The company discovers the gap after the event, not before. And you are in a compliance problem. Community. For me, building the communities, I know it is going to be the most important thing. There's no way to build the communities without human inside them. We do have a lot of deep fake that worked, but from neighborhood association perspective, somebody can really change the direction of the community by providing deepfake information if something is not discovered very, very quickly. And from the civic perspective, you can really, really employ the systems to be looking at this at the human level and not anywhere else. For the family, I really want to ensure that everyone understands that it is a gap in education, but the changes are also taking place at the level of the generations. So the generational divide is becoming even bigger, but that's why we as leaders and individuals that went through this process in one organization or another, now we can repeat that, we can improve that process through the consultancy or through the proper certification programs. So governance without the education is policy theater. And, when organizations can have a perfect AI use policy and still have every employee violating it, because the training that turns policy into behavior was never delivered. So that's why we are focused on a proper training, and that training is delivered through the alliance that builds the policies, the academy builds the capabilities, and neither work alone. So you're getting the systems, you're getting stuff that you can really, really deploy within 4 to 8 weeks period. So I mentioned, I'm really looking at this. The gap is not the tools. So every organization has already access to the same technology. The difference between the ones getting value and the ones that not is to do with it, which tools they bought. And I think we're going through even more important changes that the tools can be created by the principals, can be created by the business owners right now. And that's the opportunity. The gap is education, consistency, and confidence. So people who do not know how to think with it will not use it. And people who use it without guardrails create the problem for the organizations that you will be cleaning up in several months, or it's going to take you to even bigger problems. So failure modes and how you will recognize them all. I've seen pilots as science projects. Something gets tried, it health works, and there is no path from there to the rest of the organization. Number two, what happens? There's no foundation. Teams are handled. Yeah, you got the tools. Yeah, buy this tool. Let's go. Without training, although right now most of those software solutions, well, you can train yourself on it. That's why the gap is that self-training and self-improvement is hard to achieve in a workplace. That's why you need to provide that information and create a training environment that sticks, and the workflows are changing, because the problem number three is the workflow never changed, right? The same broken process, now faster. So it's really speeding up the bad process, and just gets you to the wrong side sooner, and the failures. So please be warned from that perspective. But if nobody owns the guardrails, and there's no policy, no review, no record, I know that I'm not working with those organizations. We really want to make sure that your guardrails are set up properly, so you can move forward with your business. Tools do not transform organizations. I mentioned that, and it is up to the people. And I see you, Dr. John. I know that we still got a few minutes. So we're really gonna start Dr. John's presentation at 2 p.m. It's gonna be 3 p.m. Eastern. So that's why I'm saying people do make a difference. Tools do not transform organizations. When a team understands how to think, prompt, or actually talk to the agents, or talk to the computer, and work alongside it, adoption accelerates, and the returns compounding. Without that, the best tool available can stagnate in a month, because employees will not gonna go back to it. And from what I'm seeing, work requires a lot of specific motivation to actually go deep into it, right? You really need to understand how to leverage the technology. Guardrails, policies, and who does what. So policy, this is what is allowed, which tools for what work, with what data, named, not implied. Guardrails, what must never happen. So that's your client data, personal data, anything you could not explain to a regulator or maybe a family member. Ownership, who decides? One named person per decision. Committees do not own anything. I mentioned that this is a big change for the organizations to if you're running committees, the opportunities are great to streamline those operations. And every department, we can really talk about the department by department, but I always go back still to that change management to ensure that the leadership and the boardroom is fully educated about the threats and the opportunities, and really figuring out how to do it safely without jeopardizing anyone else's health and safety in the organization. Talking about the three laws, simple. I want everything to be legal, ethical, and moral. Nothing gets bypassed because of that. And I mentioned that I do that work through the license with WSI. So WSI is a large organization, and we do quite a few trainings. So let me actually, I wanted to open up that page, because it is actually resolving problems on its own as well. But you can just book a discovery call. That's the easiest way to do it. But this is the offering of the consulting practice. So 3 ways we help business owners get real about it. So it is that's what I like the most. It's AI strategy and roadmap development for the organizations. And then we do live training and cohorts. And then the biggest aspect is to get the ownership or business owners to that implementation, but as well as governance. So those are the conversations that we do with the organizations. We run live cohorts and with those real frameworks. What I'm telling you on over those 3 days is really tip of the iceberg, and because you can go much deeper with offerings and solutions that we provide. Sal, I think we're gonna go off in about 5 minutes, right? So we're gonna take a short break. I got two more slides, but I just want to go through this to this page fully. What is the difference for me? You know that $300. That's a 1 day live. This is more for like 101 people that are not ready to do 101. That's why I'm opening up the rooms for that conversation. And 2 day live cohort is also something that I can deliver right now, but it needs to be a cohort. It needs to be a really conversation, so we can compound the knowledge in that room and really get that effect of camaraderie when we go into the conversations and the trainings, so that adoption, you will get that adoption part very, very quickly, as it is the most important one. So there are different dates for the different trainings. And what I am doing internally within, right after this seminar and forum, anyone that's still gonna have the access link, the token link to the portal, well, I really invite you back to the open office hours during the week. On Tuesdays, we're gonna have two blocks that are always gonna be available between 2 and 4. Wednesday and Thursdays, the same thing. They're themed differently. For me, Tuesdays is really a day for the real estate professionals and really helping brokers, helping managing brokers to accomplish a cohesive training for their brokerage, make your agents safe. So I definitely provide and blend into it a safety training with everything that we are doing. And then on Saturdays, the Saturdays are designed to be working rooms. So I understand that most of you are working during the week, and that's why I am also opening the Saturdays specifically to continue some conversations. Because when we're gonna start the project, I want to make sure that that the leaders and business owners understand that there is a always open room on any day of the week that you can ask questions and get resources. And we'll be doing this even more and repeating the forum that will be completely different, right? We did the first forum in May. The recordings are available in the portal right now. That was way more strategic information about for the business owners, how to leverage all those opportunities. And we got plenty of reports done, and there are other surveys here as well. But sign up for our newsletter if you are already in a portal. I will ensure that I'm good after this weekend. So I got 2 newsletters currently. I'm gonna be splitting slightly different, so we are targeting the right individuals that need those solutions. So the reports are fantastic. Please take time to read them, and what you would like to do through the consultancy practice. I am really building those cohorts to ensure that that I can stretch myself a little bit more. We'll be showing leaders how to build their basically clones and cloning the brain, cloning the video and audio as this is probably the most attractive thing for those that are knowledge workers or providing training and education. And I'm just gonna go, you know what, Sal? I'm not gonna leave this back at 2 o'clock. I'm just gonna go and leave this one for the survey. So that's so you can just keep it going while no. Yeah, can you so no, take us offline. Just I don't think you, yeah.
God bless USA and Des Plaines, Illinois. Today we play volleyball. Tomorrow we buy gold jewelry.
Alrighty. So now we're gonna go into probably the most important session of the whole 3 day, because I'm I'm so pleased to introduce Dr. John Burns, founder of Center for Aggression Management, with 30 years of professional experience resolving bigger problems in a societies that we ever thought are gonna be possible to resolve. And you will understand that I'm a believer in that process, because that process is something that you need to lean in and you need to understand it as a professional. And we're gonna be talking about the changes and the prevention, and obviously nothing comes out of nowhere. And Dr. John will definitely resolve a lot of problems for the professionals. This session is going to be fantastic for the HR leaders, anyone that is responsible for other humans' life in the organizations, and how they communicate, because that's a big aspect of that as well. And Dr. John will be talking about what is observable, because nothing is unpredictable. Everything is can be leaving the trail, and with Dr. John's solution and the training, those problems can be removed and eliminated. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and sir, if you can just queue up your slides right now, and
I have to send a request. I need to be approved.
Okay, so let's do that.
Okay.
Good. Excellent.
Well, once again, Andy, thank you so much for allowing me to participate. We talked about this day representing human behavior and a specific area of human behavior that we're all concerned about, and that is aggressive behavior. I'm Dr. John Burns. I'm the founder and CEO, as Andy has pointed out, of the Center for Aggression Management, and a proud Navy veteran on the first nuclear-powered submarine, something I'm quite proud of. In fact, my friends say that I still glow at night. So, and I'm here to introduce you to CAPS, the Critical Aggression Prevention System. And just move this a little bit over this way. There we go, so that people can see me in a readily way here. There we go. That's much better.
Correct.
I'm going to say something to you to start with. It's going to sound a little absurd. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to share something with you that literally nobody else has. Now, that sounds a little absurd with all the bright people that are on the planet, but to start with, I'll tell you that we started at a very unique place, and I'm going to share that with you so you'll be able to make that decision for yourself. Where we started at a very unique place, which took us down a very unique path that literally nobody else sees, and produces results that literally nobody else has. That's what you're going to see here today.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next slide. If I were to take 50 random individuals and place them in front of you, could you, with scientific reliability, and because I use that phrase, scientific reliability, I'm going to dedicate an entire slide to precisely what that means. So with scientific reliability, would you be able to identify the behaviors, if you will, the precursors to harmful intent? Whether that's just general harmful conduct, sexual harassment, abuse, bullying, discrimination, and or violence. Would you be able to identify these precursors, be able to get out in front and actually prevent them from occurring? Well, the obvious answer is no, you couldn't. Well, in this process today, with this journey we're going to take together, I'm going to show you exactly how you can do precisely that. So where did this come from? Well, in the United States, our federal government, our FBI and Secret Service have for years said that they can get out and prevent violence by identifying someone on the path to violence. That's their phrase, on the path to violence. In other words, if you get them on the path, they're out in front of violence, you can actually prevent the violence. That's pretty simple. Well, we call that path the sequential successive precursors to violence. And these precursors not only allow us to get out in front of violence, but also insider threats, sexual harassment, abuse, bullying, discrimination, those things that are generally referred to as maladaptive or mistreatment types of behaviors that cost employers, incidentally, a considerable amount of money, both in human and financial costs. And because we're able to identify them early enough, that's the key. Obviously, if you make an accusation against someone, what happens? Their hackles go up, they become defensive and you begin to lose them. You're losing trust, you're losing their cooperation. But if we're able to get them early enough, and you're going to see that you can actually do that, they haven't yet become defensive or entrenched. It allows you to build that rapport and trust and cooperation with this person. So you can persuade them, or what we like to refer to as redirect them away from their aggression. And this all can be done with scientific reliability and without violating privacy regulations or civil rights protections. We'll go into, that's very important. So we'll go into more detail about that in a moment. But before we do so, we need to talk a moment about mental health assessments and psychological evaluations. You see, if we listen to the media, all we have to do is all be psychologically evaluated or mental health assessed, and we wouldn't have these problems. Well, nothing could be farther from the truth. After the horrific shooting at Virginia Tech, 32 people lost their lives that day. The president got the brightest of minds in our country, including the FBI and Secret Service, and they came to the following conclusions. Most people that are violent do not have mental illness, and most people that have mental illness are not violent. They couldn't get that information to work. In fact, the shooter at Virginia Tech, Sung Hee Cho, was mental health assessed 3 different times. And in each and every occasion, he was deemed to be depressed and anxious, but not, I repeat, not at risk of hurting himself or others just before he murdered 32 innocent people. Not far from where I live in Orlando, Florida, home of Mickey Mouse, was the Parkland shooting. Nicholas Cruz, the shooter, was mental health assessed by the Florida Department of Family and Children and deemed to be, you got it, not at risk of hurting himself or others just before he murdered 17 innocent souls. Then I want to introduce you to Jared Lee Loughner. You may remember Jared Lee Loughner was the guy who shot Congresswoman Gabrielle Gifford. She survived, thank gosh. What you may not remember was 8 people lost their lives that day in that event. Now, here's a guy who clearly had a thought disorder. He was probably schizophrenic, one of the scarier of all mental illnesses. But we know that of all schizophrenics, 0.3%, that's not 0.3, that's 0.3% of schizophrenics have murdered another human being. So how do you get from 0.3% to this is your next murderer? You can't. That's been the problem all the way along. Clinical assessments, psychological evaluations are inherently subjective. They're constrained by confidential protections, HIPAA, and they're not designed to give you a constant, continuous behavioral risk monitoring. Therefore, they're not reliable. As a result, mental health assessments are not scientifically reliable, nor scalable in a way that can provide a solution for this harm across all borders. What you're going to see with CAPS is you do have it. So what I'm going to share with you are behavioral indicators, precursors to aggressive behavior. These are human-based precursors. What does that mean? It means if you're addressing a human, these will apply. It's that simple. And they're grounded in simple observable behaviors, common sense observable behaviors. I'm often asked, how much education do you need to be able to use this system? Not very much if you've lived life at all, because these things will make sense for you. Because if you've lived life, they will make sense for you. So these are easy to understand, they're easy to learn, and they're easy to apply in real time. They do not use mental health assessments or psychological evaluations for all the reasons we've just mentioned. And they do not use protected characteristics. We do not use culture, gender, education, age, sexual orientation, or religion. What does that mean? It means that we do not violate HIPAA, FERPA, the Civil Rights Act here in the US, or the European Union's GDPR. In other words, we can record and track aggressive behavior over time and space with a certain impunity. That in itself is transformative. That in itself is unique. Operationalizing this, implementing it, is very simple. There are only 3 components to it. 2 are training, 1 is software. So there are organizations that want all people skilled with all skills, and we're happy to do that. It's easy to do. But most organizations want a 2-tiered system. So we develop what we call aggression first observers. These are people on the front lines of aggressive behavior. They see it all the time. But they're not going to be taught the usual subjective references like scary, strange, weird, and menacing. They're going to be taught objective, measurable observables of human-based aggression. And they're going to be taught how to put that information along with the logistics into an app. And that information will be transferred to the second level of training. These are certified aggression managers. These are people who are trained to engage and diffuse, but most importantly, to redirect these individuals. Now, that redirection is particularly important in our system, so I'll go into more detail about that in a moment. But all of this is then tied together in a bow with what we call the meter of emerging aggression. The meter of emerging aggression is a central analysis tool that tells us, is someone being aggressive? And where are they on this scale of aggression? So we can apply the corresponding skill sets to maximize our result without violating any of these HIPAA, FERPA, the Civil Rights Act, or the European Union's GDPR. We do all of this with a CAPS mobile app and a CAPS dashboard. And once again, I'm going to go into great detail about this so you'll be able to see how and why it works. So what was it that we discovered 3 decades ago that made all this difference. I told you about this unique place, but this is it. We identified two kinds of aggression. One we referred to as primal, the other we referred to as cognitive. And when put together, it gives us the ability to identify aggressive behavior at any point in time with any individual in time. So let's dissect this for a moment. Primal aggression is built on the primal instincts of fight or flight. It is fueled by adrenaline, that connection between aggression, the production of adrenaline, the increase in the heart rate, and the resulting body language and behavior that we can both observe, but most importantly, we can measure it. When I was working with the military, we were using infrared. And if we could get a square inch of skin, we could identify a person's pulse rate remotely and watch it go up and down based on the stimuli. This is hard science. But because it's based upon adrenaline and the adrenaline rush, doesn't this represent someone losing control? The higher on this scale they are, the more loss of control they have. So our ability to identify not just that someone's losing control, but at what stage or level they are, once again, so we can apply the corresponding skill sets to maximize our result. But if this represents someone losing control, what about conscious, deliberate aggression? It doesn't fit, does it? So we had to search the universe. We came upon a professor in Austria, developed what he called a conflict model. It was academic, it was convoluted, but well-researched, peer-reviewed. So we simplified it, put it alongside primal aggression. Oh, excuse me. This is the most extreme you expect to see under primal aggression. We like to call this person the red-faced, ready-to-explode guy. Isn't that a lovely image? So we're back to cognitive aggression. So what do we see with cognitive aggression? Cognitive is conscious, deliberate aggression. It is conscious, deliberate aggression, or it is non-conscious in that someone repeats it so often that they no longer a person. This is a person who doesn't care what happens to others. So if this is built upon the intent to do harm to another human being. The intent to do harm to another human being. So we ask the simple question, what is your intent? Is it in your interest and theirs? In other words, a win-win as it ought to be, what we refer to as assertive behavior. Or is it in your interest and to their detriment? That's what we call aggressive behavior. So that's what we're trying to identify. And this is way below the radar. Nobody is seeing these kinds of behaviors because they're not looking for them. They're actually, our ability to identify this kind of behavior, being able to engage and get involved with them. So the first group, and there's a 0 baseline and 9 stages, and you're going to see them all here. You'll be able to make your own judgment. But the first grouping are the victimizers. The next grouping are the predators. They want what you have, but they don't want to give you value for it. In a more business-like basis, maybe you're the leader of a team. They will try to undermine your trust relationship with your team. They will actually try to make you sound like an enemy of your own team so they can undermine you enough that they can try to take over against you. Or they will simply steal it from you. That's called criminal intent. The highest level, the 9th-stage cognitive aggressor, is the perpetrator of murder, suicide, or terrorist. Let me introduce you to Zaccaria Moussaoui, often known as the 20th hijacker. And as you look at these two facial expressions, you can see they're quite different, can't you? You see, the sad fact is that security and law enforcement, they see the guy on the top as their most lethal guy, but the guy on the bottom is far, far more lethal. You see, we've come to realize that no matter what your culture, your gender, your education, your age, your sexual orientation, or religion, if you're a human being and you rise to the intention where you're prepared to give up your life for a cause, your body will respond to that intention by losing animation. In essence, the body says, I'm dead, and it takes on that look. What do you see? You see what you're seeing here with Sakurai Masawi. The military call it the 1,000-yard stare. Others call it dead eyes. Others call it loss of forehead expression. But here's the key. They come to the scene with this look. There's nothing they can do about it. And why is that important for you to understand? Well, there's a phrase called the moment of commitment. The moment of commitment is that moment when an assailant decides to pull that weapon and start shooting. From that moment of commitment to when the first round is discharged is just 2 seconds. Let me repeat that. It's just 2 seconds. No security, no law enforcement, no matter how well trained or equipped, can reliably be on scene in 2 seconds. So you're on your own. I had the opportunity to speak to the director of operations for NASRO, the National Association of School Resource Officers. And when I asked him, I said, can your SROs be on scene in 2 seconds? He said, absolutely not. To which he invited me to this next conference. And literally, we had to push SROs out the door because they all wanted to be in that room, and the room was not, there just was not a room with the capacity for that room to hold all the people that wanted to be in that room, which is very sad. So the point we're making here is the moment of commitment is only 2 seconds. So what will happen when security does arrive? They're going to do what they've been trained to do in active shooter response training. They're going to step over the dead, dying, and/or wounded victims to get to the shooter, which I certainly do understand, but it to me is unacceptable. Why? Because I'm about to tell you how you can prevent this from occurring. It may only be moments, but if you have first observers in your parking lots or your parking garages, you have the ability to be notified when someone like this is approaching into your buildings. If you're a hospital and you have an information desk, everyone in that desk is going to be trained as first observers. If you have HR, security, risk managers are all going to be first observers, trained in these skill sets. And you're going to learn here as we go through this process how well trained and how competent you can rely on these people. Because we're going to give you the ability for the first time, this is unique, the ability to get out in front of that horrific moment of commitment and actually prevent it from occurring. Once again, it may only be moments, but you're able to get out in front in a reliable way. Now, we're going to go into a lot more detail about this as we go to the next slide. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is the continuum of aggression. On the right, you see the primal aggression continuum. On the left, you see the cognitive aggression continuum. 2 continuum is a continua. That's why you read primal and cognitive aggression continua. And what I want to bring to your attention is what I like to call the prevention gap. What does that mean? The prevention gap is when people are notified. So when do people normally notify that there's a problem? When do people get reported that there is a serious problem and that needs to be brought to someone's attention, whether that's HR, security, or someone else? When does that happen? It happens right here, ladies and gentlemen. Stage 6, 7, or 8. That's why people keep reacting. The federal government calls this identifying someone planning or preparing for an attack. That is the federal government's definition of prevention. But as you can see very quickly, there's not a lot of prevention there. There's a lot of reaction there. So let's break this down. We'll start with the primal aggression first. When do we start seeing? We start seeing triggers. What is a trigger? You get up late for work and you're now rushing. You go in for coffee and breakfast and there is none. Now your stomach's grumbling. You get 3/4 down the driveway to work and it's garbage day and you forgot the garbage. So you jam on the brakes, grab the garbage cans, drag them to the street. You get into morning traffic and someone cuts you off. These are little explosions that go off in our heads. We all experience them. But here's the difference. We cope. We cope. As long as we're coping, everything is copacetic. In other words, everything is okay. When we stop coping, when one trigger begins to build on top of the next, builds on the top of the next, we enter into what we call the escalation phase and what we term mounting anxiety. Why? Because it changes us. It changes our body language. It changes our behavior. It changes the way we communicate with each other. We can identify these changes. Once again, far, far earlier than an actual incident has occurred. Now, the next thing I want to point out is you'll see here low risk, moderate risk, and high risk. And you'll see this is green, this is yellow, this is red. Well, what's the difference? Well, in the case of Nikolas Cruz, the shooter at the Parkland shooter, there were 45 calls made on Nikolas Cruz's bad behavior. And when I say, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, this was bad behavior, I'm talking about really bad behavior. He took a weapon out of his backpack, aimed at another student's head and said, I'm going to blow his brains out. These calls were made to the school district. They were made to the local sheriff's office, and they were actually made to the FBI. And no one felt the urgency enough to have prevented this from occurring. So why is that? When we have hundreds of people telling us literally thousands of times, if you see something, for God's sake, say something, why isn't that reliable? Why isn't that working? Well, I can tell you, it's very simple. Humans tend to do what they perceive as in their best interest. Does that sound solid to you? Sound advice? They don't see it in their best interest to get involved, and they don't. It's that simple. So how does this CAP system change things? Well, we have what we call mistreatment. It's also referred to as maladaptive behavior. These are things like destructive conflict, sexual harassment, abuse, bullying, discrimination, insider threats. These are all elements that cost employees and also employers enormous cost in both human and financial costs. So let's break this down and see what's actually happening. Let's take conflict to start with. There's a thing called conflict resolution, right? Everybody's taking it. Whether you're a supervisor, manager, human resources, security, whatever your role is, if you're a leader, you have taken conflict resolution training, right? Well, why? Well, because it's supposed to prevent escalation and violence, right? But does it? You see, doesn't conflict resolution presuppose conflict? It does. You can't resolve something that doesn't exist. So conflict must exist before you engage with conflict resolution. What does that mean? That means you're reacting to conflict. You are not, let me repeat, not preventing conflict. You are reacting to conflict. Let me let that settle in for just a second. So that means there's a victim already, right? There's conflict. You got a victim. You also have a perpetrator. Both lives are going to be changed. And you're going to have a cost. And these costs are profound. But isn't this the same for the next thing, sexual harassment? Doesn't sexual harassment represent someone exhibiting sexual harassing behavior? You're reacting. Abuse, bullying. Bullying is pervasive in our schools. Doesn't this represent someone exhibiting bullying type of behavior? You're reacting to bullying. You're not preventing bullying. All of those bullying programs that are out there, they're not actually, they may get lucky and prevent some, but it's not reliable. Discrimination, insider threats. All of these elements we are reacting to, ladies and gentlemen. We are not, I repeat, not preventing them. But let's take this conflict resolution a step further. Are there people who can express their conflict with violence? Aren't we seeing that on our urban streets across the nation? Aren't we seeing this on our college campuses? These are people who are in conflict with each other, and they're expressing that conflict with violence. So if you truly want to prevent violence, don't you have to get out in front of conflict? Conflict resolution doesn't do that, does it? So how do we prevent? How do we prevent? Well, we have something kind of special here. Once again, something unique to cats. We have the precursors to all of these behaviors. You see, all of these behaviors begin at the fourth stage of cognitive aggression. Once you learn what stages 1, 2, and 3 look like, you are seeing the precursors to these incidents, and it gives you the ability with reliability to get out in front and actually prevent these maladaptive mistreatment types of behaviors. Can we rely 100% on body language behavior? The answer is no, we can't. So we develop what we call the judicious interview. The judicious interview uses scientific cause and effect principles. That's something you're going to hear over and over again here. It uses scientific cause and effect principles. In other words, we ask specific questions or we take specific action that produces a predictable result if someone's intention is to harm another person. Isn't that the definition of cognitive aggression? It is. Now, I will tell you there are other programs that are sort of primal aggression. It's not nearly as well defined, but there is nobody else out there with cognitive aggression. So our ability to not only identify that someone has an intent to do harm to you or someone else, and not only determine that, but at what stage or level you are, that gives you the ability to get out in front of it and actually prevent it. And now we have this tool, scientifically reliable tool, using scientific cause and effect principles to identify when someone is actually aggressing with the intent to do harm. This doesn't exist anywhere else. So now let's jump up to the crisis phase. What do we expect to see under the primal aggression side? What do we expect? We expect to see someone spiraling out of control into panic and or rage. Can this person be lethal? Of course they can. But most typically, primal aggressors, remember they're adrenaline driven, can be diffused by simply removing the object of their anxiety. That makes life a lot simpler, doesn't it? Now, before we go over to cognitive, I want to talk a moment about executive protection, because we're watching right now two cases, one with Luigi Mangiolone in New York, and the other is the shooter of the Christian shooter. Both murdered their executive. And the problem here, ladies and gentlemen, is the occult following that these individuals are acquiring. There seems to be a movement towards killing people you disagree with. I've had the honor of working with legends in executive protection. And here's what I've learned from working with them. They go by the same guidance we showed initially. They see prevention as identifying someone planning or preparing for an attack. As you've learned already, that's stages 7, 8, and 9. They're missing stages 0 through 6. That's why they continue to react instead of prevent. Now let's go over and look at the cognitive aggression side. One of the first things you will see here, ladies and gentlemen, is that these people become tactical. Now, if you're former military like me or law enforcement, risk management, you tend to think this is well thought out, and it can be well thought out. But the definition here is slightly different. This is a person who's identified their target and they're committed to the destruction of that target. And because of it, they will begin to exhibit body language behavior and communication indicators that we can identify, and we can begin to identify it early on. So let's start at the top and work our way down. At the 9th stage cognitive aggressor, this is the perpetrator of murder, suicide, or terrorist. This is a person whose goal it is to give up their life for a cause. This is what makes them so lethal. You know, we know that aggressors have to disconnect from their victim. They turn their victim into an object, so in order to attack them. But this person goes a step further. They disconnect from their own well-being. This is what makes them so lethal. This is why they can blow themselves up in a car with their own children in the back seat. This is part of a culture that we, as Westerners, have real difficulty understanding and grasping. Next level down is the 8th. This is the murderer or combatant in a military sense, who's prepared to give up their life for a cause, but intend to survive. This changes their behavior. We can identify those changes. At the 7th level, we call this the complicit tactician. Completely complicit with the 8th and 9th level. They want certain people to die, but they're not going to kill them, nor are they actually going to put themselves that much at risk. Why? Because they're going to inspire other people to do that, like the late Osama bin Laden, a terrorist handler, or in a domestic sense, someone may help with logistics and accomplish. Each is a precursor to the next. Each may only be moments, but it gives you the ability to get out in front of the next and prevent it. I repeat, prevent it from occurring. But still, yet, we still have stages 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0 baseline. And no matter where you are on this good earth, there's always a 0 baseline. And now we're looking for aggression deviations from that baseline, all founded in science. This makes life so much easier for people to identify these behaviors, engage, diffuse, and redirect. But we're going to go into more detail about that in a moment. But I'd like to talk now. We talked about triggers under primal aggression. I want to talk about the difference in this category, what I would generally call the trigger phase of cognitive aggression, is the difference between assertive behavior and aggressive behavior. Assertive behavior says, I'm going to win by being the best version of myself, and I'm going to win in a way that everyone else has a chance to win also. In other words, a win-win environment, or depending upon the dimensions, a win-win-win basis. But what happens if you say, I'm going to win, and I don't care what happens to you? Well, there's a wonderful old phrase that says that people don't care what you know until they know you care. So caring, these are considered soft skills. But ladies and gentlemen, these are operational strategies. If people think you care, you're going to be far more productive with them, and they're going to be far more likely to come along with you. Same with the element of trust is another element of assertive behavior. Trust is essential to teamwork, leadership, loyalty, all of these elements that are so important. These are so important. We're going to go into more detail about them in just a moment. But I want to make the distinction between assertive behavior and aggressive behavior, because that's where the difference comes, is when your perspective goes from a win-win to I'm going to win and I don't care what happens to you. Or worse yet, I don't care, I'm going to win even though I know that you could be harmed by it. Or finally, I'm going to win. I live in a world of winners and losers. And because I live in a world of winners and losers, all I need to do is make you lose and I win. That's aggression, ladies and gentlemen, in the broadest sense. But let's take this to the next level. This is assertive behavior. What are the values? There we are again: trust, caring, cooperation, performance. It's mutually beneficial. Teamwork, leadership, loyalty, performance, productivity. All of these things that are mutually beneficial, that is assertive behavior, and that's where we in life want to be. What's the opposing? Aggressive behavior. What happens here? Distrust begins to grow. Mistreatment, that's what we just shared you. Sexual harassment, abuse, bullying, discrimination, all of these things, mistreatment, and destruction itself. All of these things fall into this win-lose category, or worse yet, lose-lose category. Our objective is to identify that transition. By giving us the ability to identify these transitions, it enables us to get out in front and actually prevent this behavior from occurring, which incidentally makes our organization more profitable, more productive, more makes the people, the teamwork, leadership, loyalty, all of these things begin to grow within your company. People actually like coming to work. But how is this evidence-based? I mean, every other organization, if you're in HR or you're a security, I had a number of security professionals tell me, John, the most daunting day of the year for me is the year I have to go before the CEO, CFO, or my client and convince that person that the money being spent on me and my team is worthwhile. All of that funding. Why? Because you're forced to prove a negative. Nobody's died, therefore all this money is worthwhile. That's a hard thing to prove, especially when other departments are giving you evidence-based results. So how can you make this a cost-benefit analysis? How can you demonstrate the value? Well, let me show you how CAPS can. Again, another unique element that CAPS is able to do that others are not. So what are we talking about here? We're going to have young Johnny. Johnny is an aggressor. And one of our first observers identifies Johnny and puts them into the app at stage 3. Then we have someone else identify, another first observer identifies Johnny and reports him at stage 4. What do we have now? We have a trend. Isn't that unique? We have a trend, a measurable, scientifically reliable trend. And now another person identifies Johnny at stage 5. What do we have? We have someone on the path. Now, does that mean Johnny's going to be violent today or tomorrow? It doesn't necessarily mean that. What it means is it creates the sense of urgency that has been absent in virtually every other system around. It enables you to, the moment this is in the system, you're now sending out a certified aggression manager who's engaging and starting the diffusing process and redirecting process. So what happens now? We have a certified aggression manager has been assigned to Johnny to engage. What is he going to do? He's going to diffuse, and most importantly, he's going to redirect. Now, this is where I want to stop for just a moment and pause to explain how this works. You see, Johnny is on a path, an aggressive path that's going to take him down a path where there are going to be consequences. So our certified aggression managers are going to convince Johnny that the path that he is on is an aggressive path. It has consequences, and he's not going to like those consequences. But then he's going to be redirected. We're going to offer him an assertive path that addresses his issues, but doesn't have those consequences. An assertive path doesn't have escalation nor violence, does it? So once you now have him on that assertive path, what's happened? He's now on this new assertive path. He's happy. He's not there because I told him to be there. He's on this new path and happily on it because he doesn't want those consequences. But ladies and gentlemen, what have we just done? We have prevented, let me repeat that word, we have prevented any further escalation and or violence. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a data point. That is an evidence-based data point that shows that you have prevented any subsequent escalation and or violence. So let's add up some numbers here. 100 people go through this program. Of this 100, are we expecting to find a lot of 7, 8s, and 9s? No. Why? Because we identified them at 3, 4s, and 5s, and we redirected them. So now they're on assertive paths. They're no longer aggressive. They no longer have an intent to do harm or will harm us in any way. So they're back being productive members of the team. So this 100 people, and here's the language, ladies and gentlemen, 90 of these 100 people no longer have an intent to do harm. That's a data point. They no longer have an intent to do harm. So they're back productive members of the team. Of the remaining 10, 5 are in counseling, and 5 have been suspended pending a more thorough investigation. So we can now say that our facilities are as safe as possible, the highest form of evidence-based best practices. That is unheard of under any other system. Now, I'm up on my 45 minutes. Shall we take a quick break? We'll come back and I'll continue on and, of course, answer any question. We'll go from there.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. So yeah, we're going to take about a 15-minute break. Just Sal is going to take us off the air and we'll be back, right? Thank you.
Write down your questions.
Yeah, exactly.
God bless USA and Des Plaines, Illinois. Today we play volleyball. Tomorrow we buy gold jewelry.
1890s.
All right.
Excellent.
So we left it on this particular slide. I know that some of the questions are coming in and they're great questions. I'm already going to be answering many of those in the slides to come. So let's get through this and then I'll start answering any of the questions that you might have. Okay. Someone was asking about scientific reliability. What does that mean? Where does that come from? Well, the APA, the American Psychological Association's definition of scientific reliability is as follows. It must produce consistent and measurable results repeatedly over time. So what did we do? We took this to Eastern Kentucky University, to their SAT team, their Student Assistant Intervention team. Dr. Good was the Vice President of Student Affairs and the chair of that team. And after being in place for over 2 years, she wrote this wonderful letter for us. This is the first paragraph, the most germane. Now that we have had the critical aggression prevention system in place for 2 years, we've been very pleased with its utility. The CAPS meter of emerging aggression, that's that central analysis tool that tells us that, number one, there is aggression and at what stage or level it is, has produced evaluations and results that are consistent with the observations of our student assistant intervention team, most of which had their PhDs. That is scientific reliability by its definition. Now, she goes on to write, I want to add, our campus legal counsel is very pleased that we're using the CAPS training and MEA software. to record all the information we gather, including actions taken in a clear, concise, and formal way. So what does that look like? Let's see. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the app. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. It is fully functional. Let's get started with it. It forensically records and longitudinally tracks without violating HIPAA, FERPA, the Civil Rights Act, or the EU's GDPR. Number one. Number two, it displays the level of aggression. Now, we took primal aggression and cognitive aggression, and we broke it down to 7 categories. Here they are: behavior, communication, interaction, demeanor, facial expressions, tactical movement, and other concerning factors. So a person goes in here, and this is the key transfer of knowledge. These are not people simply writing down what they're seeing. They're observing behavior. They go into behavior on here, and they start from the top and go down, or bottom and go up. We typically recommend from bottom up. And you identify the corresponding skill, the behaviors you're observing as to what you're witnessing, and you select. The moment you select, it not only gives you the number, in this case, level 6, but it also color codes it: green for low risk, yellow for moderate risk, red for high risk. So also it's easy to do. Why? Because it's scientifically reliable to accurately for accuracy, and you know that it doesn't violate HIPAA, FERPA, the Civil Rights Act, or the EU's GDPR. So it's comfortable to do it. You can fill out one of these, or you can fill out all 7. But what you're going to then have, as you can see here, you get the totality of the circumstances in one glance. That's huge. That doesn't exist anywhere else. So it displays the levels of aggression. Next, it displays the threat level. Look down here. Remember the meter of emerging aggression? This says you need to be prepared for stage 6. That's the highest level threat. Because if you're prepared for the highest level of threat, you're not going to be caught off guard or blindsided, right? Plus, you'll be best prepared to engage with this person and diffuse and redirect them. Best prepared. So that's what the system sets you up to do. It also gives you recommended responses. Now, in a moment, I'm going to go into the actual training and the competency, so you're going to feel fully competent. But meanwhile, know that each of these people, first observers or certified aggression managers, are going to be fully competent, that you can rely on it. So let's say, for an example, Andy, you're a certified aggression manager, and your dashboard administrator, who's also a certified aggression manager, asks you to engage with Johnny. You have some time, don't you? So you can go, although you're fully trained, you can hit this button right here: recommended best practices for someone stage 6. You can review these. So you'll be even better prepared, freshly prepared, to engage with Johnny and not only diffuse, but redirect him down an assertive path, so you can have that evidence-based result of Johnny no longer has an intent to do harm. Emergency procedures. This has their own emergency procedures in. They're Israeli, so they're really good. But if a client or a company wants their own for a slight upcharge, we're happy to put theirs in here. So let's look at the big picture. You have an army full of first observers. Yes, you want them everywhere. They're on the front lines. Different industries will want more. Hospitals, an example. They're going to want more of them. Everybody that's on, every nurse ought to be a first observer, right? That makes sense, because they're the ones often being the clinical side. They're the ones that are being injured. So these are frontline observers. They can be cyber team members, security personnel, human resources, receptionists. We're not here to tell you what they should be. You tell us. They then, obviously, they're observing behavior. They put it in their app. It goes to the dashboard, and it goes to all certified aggression managers. Why? Because they're further trained. They may actually know Johnny. They may know this behavior. They may have, and remember, because we're not stepping on any of those landmines, we can use the same things that we've used before because they're all recorded and tracked, right? The old sales routine is that if you sell someone once, they're 10 times easier to sell a second time. So we may use the same techniques, the same individual to engage with Johnny, to re-engage him back to that proper path. Now, certified aggression managers, who should they be? Well, once again, we recommend a multidiscipline team. Now, what does that mean? Now that I'm saying that to you, a multidiscipline team, I need to tell you that I have not been to a college campus, and I've been to over 150 of them, and corporations across this nation where the director of security hasn't pulled me aside and said, John, human resources, mental health, social services, risk management, they just don't get it. They don't understand threat well enough. So we don't share everything we have with them. Then I go to train inside the body of that organization, and typically it's the vice president of human resources or mental health, social service will pull me aside and say, John, you know, we're just a little too concerned that security can get too heavy-handed. So we don't share everything with them that we have. And ladies and gentlemen, if your professional security is a human resource, you know this to be true. What does this create? It creates departmental silos that create gaps that aggressors simply walk through with ease. But you see, that doesn't happen with CAPS. Why? Because everybody's using the same common denominators. Everybody's using the same language. At Eastern Kentucky University, the director of mental health was on our team. She could not and would not talk to us about mental illness, but she did and would and did talk to us about aggressive behavior. So often when she would want someone to go down a different path where we wouldn't see them again, we knew we weren't at all anxious about that because we knew that she knew her stuff, not just mental health, but also aggressive behavior. And she would know when to call us back in when that need was there. So who are these people? Often in corporations, they call them threat assessment teams, behavioral intervention teams. These could be head nurses, department heads. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not here to tell you who these people should be. You tell us and we train them. It's that simple. So let's take a look at the bigger picture. You have a certified aggression manager as your administrator. You, in this case, Andy, have been asked to engage with Johnny. What are you going to do? You're going to diffuse, you're going to redirect, and you're going to conduct a judicious interview. What then? Now that Johnny no longer has an intent to do harm, you're going to report. What did I see? How did I respond? What was that result? This is a scientific process. Fair enough? This is a scientific process. Now, however, one case, that's what we call them cases, does not make validation. But 50 cases, 500 cases, 5,000 cases, you're building a validation that withstand any kind of scrutiny. And we do all of this through our CAPS dashboard. So let's take a look at this. This is that central piece. What the orbit are apps that tell us what's going on, and they keep us monitoring throughout 24/7. The dashboard is what pulls everything together. So everyone that is going to be a participant in this are going to be first observers, firstly trained. This is a half-day training. This is instructional design, adult learning, and where they're assessed all the way along. And then at the end, they're assessed again, and they must pass an assessment of 80% or better. Now, remember, when we discussed how much education do you need, we said not very much. Why? Because these are common sense, observable, human-based behaviors. So they're very easy to understand, easy to grasp, easy to utilize in real time. So I have yet to have anybody not pass it. However, you get 5 tries if you're having difficulty. So the next grouping that are going to go through are the people that are going to be further trained as certified aggression managers. I told you that the first observer training is a half-day, 4-hour training. So in a half day, everybody can be trained. Certified aggression managers training, this is a 1-day training, 7 hours. And once again, you're assessed throughout. And at the end, you're assessed and you must pass an 80% assessment. All of this stuff is very easy to understand and grasp. I haven't had anybody yet that hasn't passed it, but if you have struggles with it at all, you get 5 tries to pass. But the end result is, as the person who's running this program, that your people are fully qualified and competent to be a party to this system. All of the existing cases, they're all color code. This is what the certified aggression managers, that's the administrator, this is what he sees, he or she. Each of these come in, they're all color coded. Green for low risk, yellow for moderate risk, red for high risk. You click on this button, view details. It gives you what the meter of emerging aggression and all the logistics. Who's involved, where did it happen, all those kinds of things. Then in this button, you select one or more certified aggression managers to engage with Johnny and start the diffusing process. Their findings wind up under review findings. All of this comes together, which brings us to the next level, the actions taken. Here, your administrator will create a narrative. It is date and time stamped. He or she will take all of the information that they've gathered, and they will create a narrative. Here's what's happened. Here's who's involved. Here's what we've done. Here's what we're doing going forward. Now, let's assume in this process, this plan, we decide, Andy, that in 2 weeks, Johnny's getting counseling next week. So we'd like you to re-engage with Johnny a week from then, 2 weeks from today, and make sure that he's still on that assertive path, and make sure that that he's got the right mindset and is staying on that path. So you receive an email. All of this awareness is all done by emails, but all of the data is all kept online in this website. So it's fully protected, fully secure. Emails tell you that there's a note for you, but the information, you have to log in and get the information. And then, so you will receive a reminder 2 weeks from now with all the information, a header and all the narrative needed for you to appropriately engage with Johnny and continue that process with you. Now, so what do we see here today? Every program that we have out there today is not reliable. Why? Because it's reactionary. Number one, mental health assessments and psychological evaluations are notoriously inaccurate. Why? They're too subjective. They violate HIPAA regulations. To see something and say something has proven unreliable. It doesn't work well enough. Current programs react to incidents. We just went through all those. Remember, sexual harassment, abuse, bullying, discrimination, and/or violence, and conflict, all are reacting. So there's already a cost. There's to everything. There's a victim and all the rest. The active shooter response training, as important as it is the most egregious of everything, because it presupposes you have an active shooter who's already murdering your employees. Ladies and gentlemen, to me, that's unacceptable. Remember, the moment of commitment is 2 seconds. So run, hide, fight is not a prevention strategy. It is a reaction strategy. This offers all of the things that you need, the checklist, everything else, to be able to prevent, so that innocent people don't have to become victims. Whereas CAPS Well, in the state of California, and I understand New York State is going the same way, Senate Bill 553, CAPS is the only system that is fully compliant with Senate Bill 553 in California. It's scientifically reliable. It identifies the precursors. It does not violate HIPAA, FERPA, the Civil Rights Act, or the European Union's GDPR. It's founded in science. It records and tracks using evidence-based best practices in real time. The technology is intuitive. It is easy to use, inexpensive to use, and fully scalable. Again, the only system where innocent people don't have to become victims, aggressive people don't have to become perpetrators, and companies save an enormous amount of money in both human and financial costs. That is my presentation, and I stand ready to answer any and all questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing this knowledge. This is something that I appreciate as a practitioner of this, and not seeing those tools before. I tell you, my career would be different, 100%, because this is the system that when you install it, you go through that initial training. It is a complete culture change for the organization that is not violating those rules. So let's go through those questions, because as I'm going through this presentation again and again.
Yes, and let me just mention, if I may, first and foremost, for the audience sake, Andy has the highest rating of education in the security industry, a CPP. That is the highest certification that you can achieve in the security industry. So he's obviously speaking from very professional background. But also, we're not suggesting that you should get rid of what you have. We're suggesting that this can augment what you currently have. That's all we're suggesting. So let's get to questions.
Yeah, so obviously those are not my questions, because I can answer them fully, but I need to paint that picture for the managers, for the leaders, so they're fully prepared for it. But I want to go to those indicators. So you know, how often those markers appear and nothing happens. And I think that's really the longevity of the system. And well, the training needs to be done correctly, and then the follow-up. So can you tell me more how that works in a practice in our organization?
I think you've hit the proverbial nail on the head here, Andy, because as we mentioned early on, what is the problem? You've got hundreds of people saying thousands of times, if you see something, for gosh sake, say something. Why aren't they? Well, because frankly, people don't want to get involved. They're afraid of all kinds of things. One of the things that we say, and this is, I'm really glad you brought that up, because this brings this point up. What makes the difference? If someone asked me the question the other day, is this just being Big Brother? And that's a valid question. Well, because one of the organizations is a union-based organization, and we're concerned that they're going to be really concerned. And I said, you know what? That is a very fair concern, and let me explain why. You see, today everything is reactionary, right? We've come to that realization, haven't we?
Yeah.
Therefore, everything is punitive, isn't it? You got a victim and you got a perpetrator. So there has to be punishment. So when you say that I'm overseeing you, you don't want me to do that because you're afraid that if you're even called out, regardless of whether it's true or untrue or whatever, I'm at risk, aren't I? Because I could be punished for something that I didn't do. So this is why union and others don't want something a monitoring kind of Big Brother kind of program. But this is a paradigm shift. Why? because we're not. We're avoiding the punishment. We are rehabilitative. We're getting involved with Johnny and we're directing Johnny to an assertive path. He's no longer on that aggressive path, so he's no longer going to escalate. He's no longer going to become violent. He is moving on his own path, on his own power, because he doesn't want those consequences. So we have prevented any subsequent escalation or violence. Well, that's a data point, isn't it? We have prevented it. So now Johnny is pleased that someone turned him in. Why? Because he doesn't have any consequences because someone had the energy and effort to turn him in. And they engaged with him and they prevented him from having those escalations. That is a huge difference from the system today.
It's definitely it needs to be understood. This is a mindset shift from the perspective of the science and human behavior, right? We know that humans behave in certain ways. There are other behaviors, but everything from that perspective. So
that's an excellent question, because I know that a lot of people are saying, well, is he monitoring all the time? Yes, we are. That's the way the system is set up. That people are trained to monitor. They have the app about their person, so they can fill it out at any point in time and set the stage so not to report someone and get some kind of punitive result out of it. Which brings me to another question that is often asked in conjunction with this one, and that is, can someone use the system to hurt someone else?
Exactly, yeah.
That's a great question. And the answer is not really. It has been designed not to. First of all, if you're a first observer, and first of all, you're not just writing down what you want to write down, you're picking something out of a list. So as you pick things out that are scientifically reliable and therefore, and do not violate any HIPAA, FERPA, the Civil Rights Act, the privacy regulations. But when you hit the submit button, you're now asked another question. You're asked to verify that what you just saw, what you just witnessed, is consistent with the level of aggression that the meter has given you. So if the meter has said that you're stage 3, we want you to verify that this is stage 3. So that in itself, that verification is solidifying and even make it more scientifically validated in the process. Also, that first observer knows that a certified aggression manager who's more highly trained is going to be meeting with that same person. And if he comes back saying, "Oh, there was never a problem here," what's that going to do to your reputation? So you're going to be very cautious about trying to injure someone by trying to plug them into the system.
So I had exactly the same question, phrased slightly different, because that's what people think, right? So is it profiling with better branding? No, not really. Well, but thank you for answering. What stops somebody becoming the way to report it, and somebody maybe you dislike, right? And do something. So that was the right answer. The validation is the process that keeps this all honest and observable. So yes, that's good. Next question is about well, obviously from attorneys and really that group is looking at this. So does documenting observation obviously create a record that can be used against us in a litigation? So how this is different, and you touched upon it already. So it's easy for me to even explain it, but I really want you to put it in your words specifically, because for me it is the difference is in the technology right now. It's in that solution.
This particular topic has to start with an understanding that there are rights to subpoenas. if someone subpoenas you, you have to turn over information. There's nothing we have much control over. Having said that, the system is set up to be partitioned in a way that your company's data is your company's data, and no one else gets access to it from a secure standpoint. But more directly to your question, this is a paradigm shift. I keep saying that, but it is an entire paradigm shift because we're helping people. We're changing the mindset. When we have someone, when we engage someone, one of the things, there's a lot of information about this word trust and how important it is, but there are really no metrics out there around this topic of trust. There are some major consulting companies, Deloitte as an example, does a survey. It's a lagging indicators. They do surveys, and the surveys ask you, do you trust the people around you? And then you get to learn, no, they don't trust people around them. And then they try to put implementation of programs in there that really don't do very good. What we learned with CAPS is that I can identify distrustful behavior. Now, let me repeat that. We can identify distrustful behavior. What is distrustful behavior? That's that below the radar that nobody has seen, stages 1, 2, and 3, that show you that a person is transitioning from that trust into aggression, which is distrustful behavior. And remember, when we engage with them and we redirect them, what are we doing? We're re-establishing trust. We're enhancing trust. So in essence, we are doing what no other organization is able to do, is we're identifying distrustful behavior and turning it into trustful behavior, because as we redirect people. Now, did that answer your question fully, or would you like to re-ask it?
I'm good with this from that perspective. I'm pretty sure the attorneys will be poking it even more, and I'm not gonna do that. I'm not an attorney. I'm a regular human that can do observations and can understand quite a lot. Question about because I see the biggest focus with this is healthcare and medical professionals. I am trying to fully engage with local home care agencies, specifically to provide a simple training. What I'm doing is so much less involved with from that perspective, but I always wanted to have a tool and a system that is scientifically reliable for the managers and even consultants. When you actually gonna be talking about it with the leaders or business owners, how they can really leverage that, I think we're gonna be talking about cost savings. So I really want to slant towards that, really the value of this and the impact. We are at the AI Impact Forum, so it's really, what impact do you see when it is fully and nicely deployed in a larger organizations, but also what would be the benefits maybe for the smaller organizations, because I see a lot.
Well, let me just start talking about healthcare and social services and hospitals, etc., by telling you that according to OSHA, there are more non-fatal assaults within hospitals, healthcare, and social services than any other industries. So there clearly is a problem here. And our system is designed to get out in front, because once again, what is everybody doing? They're waiting for conflict to occur. They're waiting for sexual harassment to occur. They're waiting for these markers that mean you already have the problem. That's where our system helps you get out in front and actually prevent them from occurring. So that's the way I would respond. But you can ask the question again if you don't feel like I've gotten it fully answered.
No, I think that's a difference. Is I fully understand it, and I think you answered it clearly. But you also talked about the differences deploying it in like a union shop or union workplace that it still can be done. I don't see
Unions
a
should
problem.
love this program
Yeah, exactly.
because it's protecting their members.
So that is even better.
I mean, the Big Brother is already there. I mean, Big Brother, that's what the whole system's based on.
Yeah.
You make an accusation, then the union person brings in their union assistant who's trained to argue, and they come together and they clash. I had the honor of working with the US Postal Service for a number of years. And there was such a change. I mean, there are three basic ones and sometimes 4 and 5 other unions within the US Postal Service. And they were having a nightmare. And I came in and started training bulk mail centers and processing and distribution centers. And their productivity jumped so significantly that manager was calling manager. And I was going in all over the United States training these people. And it's quite remarkable because we all know that people can be very territorial, right? Well, I mean, you'd go onto this 1 million square foot building, concrete floors, with all of this equipment set up. And some of these people went to the degree where they would tape out their territory in yellow tape. So you knew where their territory began and where it ended. So if you wanted to come into their territory, you almost had to get a nod of approval to go into that territory. I mean, it's quite remarkable.
What was it during the COVID?
No, this was way before the COVID. This still happens. These are the processing distribution centers and the bulk mail centers. These cover millions of square feet in concrete floor with equipment all over it, arranged to be able to move the mail. And the people that use those, and it's 24 hours. So one person comes off it, that's his territory, and someone else who gets it from 8 to 12, and he steps in, and now that's his territory. It's incredible.
Yes, I can see that. It's amazing how some organizations allow for stuff like this. Even that's a crazy.
Oh, let me take it a step further. In the post office, they have walkways overhead. Now, this is 1 million square feet. They have walkways and they're enclosed with one-way glass. So you don't know that you have a supervisor watching you.
Well,
It is incredible.
all right, I'm
And
gonna
not in a good way.
not in a good way. No, absolutely not. I really wanted to see what do you think about how does your latest AI training through that Harvard D3 training that was pretty sure it was very intense program that really uncovers everything from the perspective. But this is suggestion for everybody. There is so much more information about the AI and really how to help yourself, your family, the companies. Everybody is doing that education. What we are doing consultancy, right? So we are really walking the leaders through the transformations. If you are running and operating a small business, mid-sized business, go to any of the universities right now. MIT is doing absolutely fantastic programs. Harvard is doing programs that are not really expensive. And more and more universities and schools are coming up with the fantastic programs just to break that mode and eliminate that lack of tech love, because I see that's what's happening right now, and the sabotage is coming from the employees. unnecessarily because they do not just understand those systems.
Yeah, they don't understand and they're scared.
Yeah, they're scared.
And to a degree, I respect that. As you know, I got 8 different certifications in every aspect of AI from Harvard's Business School. It was a bit of a quirk. I learned about it. A lot of these universities are experimenting with this stuff. And so if you find a university that's saying, well, come along, we'll give it to you almost free, because, usually with Harvard, you're going to pay thousands and thousands of dollars. And I got it for less than $100, just to give you an example. So it really is outstanding. And ladies and gentlemen, we have AI is our future. You can push back all you'd like, but be cognizant that AI is our future. And the best way to protect yourself, if you're concerned about it, and there is a reason to be concerned about it, the best way to protect yourself is to become knowledgeable in it, so people can't take advantage of you. And it's nowhere different than when the first laptop came in. Do you remember how few people had laptops because they were afraid of what it might mean? The first cell phone, from an analytical to a cell phone. These scared the living bejesus out of people. And we needed to get past that. And now we do that sort of thing without even thinking. If our car doesn't have this capability, we think, why do we have this car, right? This technology that we have out there. So the best thing you can do is to become knowledgeable about it. And as you so aptly pointed out, and Andy, the future of AI is an agentic AI. How do you make it? I have had people that have said that every business is 90% process, and process with guidance. We're not talking about replacing anybody. We're talking about augmenting people. That AI with guidance can do process and can do it very well. And that's some of the things that you and I, Andy, are working on now. Incidentally, for the audience, Andy Babala is got a mindset that's off the charts. He's brilliant at this stuff. And I'm honored to be able to be working with him to help build my system. I have this training. And I know that I need to be able to give it in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. So by creating an avatar of me, and no, it's not perfect. My daughter says, that's not you, Dad, but she knows me in a very special way. So my sister said the same. But for people to have access to this knowledge in the way that we can give it to them because of AI and the help that AI is bringing to us is quite remarkable. And the fact that I can flip a switch and it's me speaking in Spanish to my audience in proper Spanish. And I've spoken to people that do speak fluent Spanish, and they're saying, yes, the message gets there. So it is, for a small operation, you can be a 10-man operation. If I hire an editor, I will be getting whatever I get with that particular editor, the width and breadth of that person's knowledge. But if I use AI and I create a persona of an editor, depending on how I want to frame it, it will go across the universe, finding the best of the best based upon what criteria I give it. And it will come back, and in my voice, I've been doing it now for a little over 2 years. It has my voice. In my voice, it will generate that information. And I can't tell you how excited I am. And I'm working with Andy right now with my courses so that I will have an avatar of me speaking to the community, to the students about CAPS. And when I have something I want to show them, I turn and I show them the details in slides, but these are built around the content that I want them to have, and in the most professional way, in an up-to-date way. And to think that if I'm going to be working, let's say, with law enforcement, I can put myself and anybody else in law enforcement uniform and speak from a law enforcement perspective. If I'm going to be in a hospital, I can put, that sort of thing. And I can be whatever I need to be because of AI. Everyone needs to be pursuing this.
So I'm looking at this. So yesterday we had our ASIS North Shore chapter meeting, had a presentation by Paul Rutherford from Crime Stoppers, Chicago Crime Stoppers. It's actually called Cook County. It's a great organization, and they really resolve the problems. That they are more on the investigative part and really ensuring that the victims are they got their piece. That's the story. So I'm looking at this. Police departments are built to respond. How that what would that prevention capability look like in the departments? And that I want to really start talking with the smaller departments first, because I think it's going to be much easier to really do it for the departments up to like 100, 150 officers. And then, going into Chicago, that would be very, very revolutionary. That city needs that system like nothing else. Every school in the city needs that system like nothing else. And I think we are on a transformative process of delivering this right now, to ensure that the capabilities are there, and it can be deployed now in a sensible way, with the proper training, proper solutions that everyone is getting. So we're going to be talking probably soon about deployments into like different departments. But I really want to ask you, do you have that already? Did you had a chance to actually deploy it in one of the departments? And I know that you're talking with a lot of chiefs of police.
I have been, I've talked to the chiefs that I'm for the last 4 years. I've been on the National Sheriff's Association's Cybersecurity and Crime Work Group, and we've identified that, as an aside, we've identified that these people are pretty good at keeping hackers out, but what they're abysmal at is identifying an insider, someone who already has access and authority to the system, who becomes disgruntled or worse yet, compromised, and hacks the system gets hacked, either because of them or from one way or another. But working with law enforcement itself, the mentality of law enforcement is too often you come in with guns blazing. They used to have this cop, citizen of peace perspective. That doesn't longer, nobody trusts anybody. The community has lost trust within law enforcement. Law enforcement's lost trust within the community. I hear law enforcement tell me time and time again, I don't want to get out of my cruiser because I'm afraid I'm going to get blindsided. Imagine for a moment if we could have, if I were to go in and train law enforcement officers as trainers to train community members to be first observers, train all law enforcement as certified aggression managers, and then train the trainers to train and go out into the communities at civic centers, churches, things of the sort. There are people that are crying to have a relationship where law enforcement is not going to come in guns blazing. So we teach people how to be first observers. These are leaders in the community, pastors, whatever it is. And a lot of people are on the corners, the little old lady on the corner that sees the drug dealers go. So they're actually able to get out in front. And remember, this is founded on science. So what they're getting is not what so-and-so says about so-and-so. They're getting actual scientifically reliable indicators that someone is at stage 4 and they could go to 5, and at 6 they're maybe getting there may be a crime committed, because crime is aggression, right? And once again, what does crime mean? It means crime has occurred. It's existed. So you have a victim and once again a perpetrator. If we're able to identify the precursors, and we can get out in front, but that would require a whole new approach, a new complete paradigm shift for law enforcement. And at some point, law enforcement have just got to say, I've had people that have PhDs in criminality that are former police chiefs who said to me, John, great idea, but cops are not going to do it because of their mentality. The sex appeal of being a cop is going in with guns blazing. And sadly, that's the world we live in.
Yeah, we do. I want to mention
I
one.
would love to find, just to answer your question, I would love to find a law enforcement agency, a chief, whatever, that would allow us to put this in place and let him show the numbers, and he or she would be a vanguard, would be the flagship of it.
So I am still, I know that going through the law enforcement is really the way that I can try doing this, but I was conceptualizing it needs to be a partnership with the city as well. It cannot be done any other way, because the problems that are current, well, sometimes mayor is not talking to the chief, and there are problems, right? Mayor's got his plans. If they are aligned, that's where the solutions are happening.
Think about this. If you have your officers going out into the community, teaching citizens how to be first observers, what's it going to mean to those citizens? They're going to say, wow, these are police officers that can actually prevent something from occurring, as opposed to just coming with guns blazing. So they'll begin to trust, there's that word again, they'll begin to trust those officers. Also, those officers that are teaching these citizens are also recognizing that these people care enough, and they've got the skill sets. Remember, 80%. They've got the skill sets to be competent enough to reach out for me and call me, and work. I can actually help prevent. Now, think about that for a moment. If you had the list of people coming forward, of the people that have prevented crime because of this special relationship, we're now building trust, we're rebuilding trust between the community and their law enforcement agencies, can imagine the value and benefits that would bring.
I can see that. I can conceptualize this because of how I think. I always think, 6 months forward, a year forward, and as somebody that always been setting my own strategies, it was, well, you try to see those ripple effects. You try to see your action that you're taking 2-3 years ago as something that helps from that perspective. So if we're gonna have more properly trained aggression managers, I think this is where the society can change for the good, because of the education and knowledge. Knowledge is something that I think every kid should want to go to school, right? But right now it's hard. It's the situation, the economic situation, and when we're talking about opportunities for
I had the opportunity to speak to the security people at Philadelphia School District, and they were begging their superiors to let them get trained. They wouldn't spend the money. So,
well,
I don't want to go over our timing again. I know Sal I get that look of, we're okay. Okay.
Yeah, we good. We can still go for we'll finish. I'm not gonna finish my slides. I'll probably finish them at the session that I will do later on today. So I'm gonna have that recorded as well, so we can put a full package as well for those that would like to watch that. I think I want this to be running on YouTube because I feel it's a very, very important conversation, not just between us. I think this knowledge needs to be amplified. So let's close it out together. So if the organization wanted, people trained, how do they contact you, sir? Where do they go for the resources? And I can maybe switch to your website, but what is the easiest way to engage with you?
The easiest is go to my website. It's aggressionmanagement.com. Pretty straightforward. Aggression has two G's, incidentally. AGGRESSIONMANAGEMENT.com. You can tell I've done that more than once. And my telephone number and email address are right on that first front page. So if you want to reach out to me, but there is an enormous amount of information there about myself, the company, client lists. I've worked with the Fortune 500 companies, as I mentioned, Postal Service. Over the past 30 years, I've worked with virtually every industry.
Can you stop sharing for a second? I want to go to the page that we prepared, and let's start because I want people to get something from this as well. So I know that we prepared a one chapter of your audiobook, and that's a production that's starting, but this is really a simple way to share the message that can stay with everybody. So under pureexperts.pro, we wired in a page for Dr. John that specifically shows his path. We got also, this is where the questions were coming in, and I also wanted to talk about the book writing. I know that you are on your fifth book right now, and can you tell us more how that book is different? Is it more like a compendium? Because what I started writing, I'm starting to write books that are custom to some specific aspect of human behavior that can be easily fixed just by the conversations, right? Because that's what we're really doing. We're directing by the conversation. So reading the books like this is a great knowledge for everybody. And I want to point out, so I will send this. We had it locked until today, really, on $27, but we got a full chapter that will have also in that Spanish done, because I truly believe that the Spanish population in United States, well, it's big, and they sometimes they do not communicate in English, and that's what is coming from the families. They never need that, and that's why we always translate into different languages. So that is quite important. But I'm gonna send a link to anyone that was already on a list with that full chapter. So if you can just talk about this story, because we create this specifically, so it's a easy way for somebody to lean in and also understand the whole process. So that's how it is designed.
Great question, Andy, and thank you for asking it. This is the last chapter of my book on school violence. Why don't you just go up a little bit to it, to the book, or wherever that book is.
Oh, so I'm gonna send the email with where they can download that.
Excellent. Okay. There we are. Safe Schools, Safe Futures. The last chapter recounts James Douglas is a normal kid, just like anybody else you'd expect to see in school. And he acts with everybody the same way. You'd never think that James would be anything but a sterling student. And things begin to change. And the reality, and in our experience, what we find out is that no one is prepared to report it. as things begin at the lower level, stages 1, 2, and 3, no one's reporting it. Then 4 and 5, still no one's reporting it, because what he's talking about is among his own cohorts, his own co-conspirators. So they're not sharing it with anybody else. This is just a small group of people. So this person continues to escalate, and nobody knows it until this person is at stage 6. Remember when we said, when do most people report? It's 7, 8, and 9. Well, this person gets reported at stage 6, but then everything starts crashing down. He's expelled from school. Does that mean the school and they are safe? No, quite the contrary. They've lost control of him because now he's no longer there. And he now continues. Now, law enforcement's called because it becomes obvious that he's doing some observations and he's deciding to get back with against certain people. So what can law enforcement do? Well, it turns out they can't do very much. In the state of Florida, as an example, we have a Baker Act. You can Baker Act someone for how long? 72 hours. So now he's confined for 72 hours, allegedly getting treatment, but really is he? And 72 hours, now he's out again, and he's even more upset than he was before he went in. So each of these things are mounting, and you've lost control of him until he decides to come to school with a weapon and starts killing people. This is someone you would never have thought 6 months, a year before that they would have been doing this. But, and I show step by step. Here's step 1. You could have stopped it here. Step 2, you could have stopped it here. Step 3, you could have, each step of the way, we could have engaged and stopped. So that's what people are learning. They're learning how easy it is with the skill sets that CAPS offers you.
Correct.
The ability to engage and prevent these things from happening repeatedly through the process. But today, people don't even know what they're looking at. They don't know how to interpret what they're looking at. And nobody wants to turn someone in. Why? Because the moment that person is punished today, under today's rules, the moment that person is punished, who are they looking for? They're looking for the person who turned them in. And that person is now at risk. That's why see something, say something does not work.
Yeah, and we've seen it for a while. As much as the professionals are doing that training and kids are moving around and everything works, it just is not a best tool. There is something that can prevent it in the first place. So why don't we really use that option? Because now, thank you for your time, Dr. John. I hope that a lot of people would get it to the point that it is a mindset shift, to the point that it is actually working, because it can work very, very quickly. So the one more question was, like, from the perspective of deploying it. You said that the workshops are not really lengthy, but from the organizational perspective, is every employee kind of know that this program is coming to their workplace?
This is a great question. Thank you for asking it. It depends upon the state you're in. In the state of California, with Senate Bill 553, every individual must be at least a first observer. Everyone, every employee. So that's in the state of California. Elsewhere, we believe generally, and again, based upon the industry, we believe that that if 20% of your employees are trained, either as first observers or certified aggression managers with a system in place, then there's a strong likelihood if something came up that it would bubble up within the system and you'd capture it. Now, that's not true with every industry, but most industries it is. So it all depends upon the company. We do a pro forma for you. We do a cost benefit analysis for you so that we come up with the best possible plan for you where you feel comfortable you're covered. Now that's for employers now. School systems, universities, I mean, whatever larger organizations or institutions. Individuals, we have a single individual app that a person can purchase. It doesn't have a dashboard, but you can create a small group. So if you have family members, let's say there are 5 family members, you make them all part of that group. So if someone in the group sees something on an app and they want to share it with the rest of the group, they can. They're not required, but it just gives them a small, tiny version of what the dashboard and the app works within corporations.
And that's the way to spread this. So so I really want to make sure that I think next time, sorry, next session that we have, it's gonna be, we need to do one more session probably next week to make sure that everything is moving forward. But if anyone would like to really go deeper with the questions, because I think that's what we need to be doing, and repeating this this segment, maybe for the next month or 2. But the most important thing for me is to ability to allow others to ask those questions, right? We doing the presentation, but the interactive aspect of this is different when you have leaders talking and asking questions. So this is not gonna be something that is gonna be fully. I need to figure out if this is gonna be still something that we'll be able to share fully on a YouTube or on the internet. But I really would like to continue with this because we didn't have the chance to cover that that community netbacks and really how I really would like to deploy this, because the costs are really not big
No,
for what you can do with those systems. And when you're gonna also do that mindset shift for the corporation, that's where all those benefits come hand in hand. And I think that the best results are still in the healthcare industry, but talking to the police departments and really villages or individuals that are responsible for the whole cities, whole departments, that is the goal. That is something that I will create a simple way to disseminate that information, because it's hard to grasp it. But when we are talking and you doing that presentation, everything gets clear around that second hour. So really, most of the individuals should also absorb that and see that difference, that this is observations with the scientifically reliable codes, and it pulls it all together. And it's really not that complicated, because Dr. Jan spent 20 years really honing this. So like he showed within the application, you really have those solutions, right? So it's simple system to use for the observers as well, to make sure that they are keeping up with this, and that deployment, from that perspective, deployment is easier.
What I'd also recommend is take that that chapter that we've given you here and share it with every teacher, every superintendent, every principal, because it does give them an idea of what you should be looking for and how to prevent it from escalating. But also, one thing we didn't even get into at all today was insider threat.
Yeah.
That's a huge market and a need. And it turns out in the United States, or everywhere, as far as I'm aware, we have the only system that can reliably identify an insider before they commit whatever they're going to commit.
So, all right, well, at least we got something to talk about in 30 days, because that's what I would like to schedule. We'll look at our calendars So we'll make the announcements that this is going to be available. But for everyone that is watching currently, this is not going away. This is the knowledge that that is now available, and the contacts are here as well. Everything on a forum, you can still get the recordings. To book a call with me, I got a simple Calendly link. But the easiest way to connect with me and the whole Pure Experts ecosystem is the community app. So so if you go to community.pureexperts.ai, our phone number, the automated one, is 847-991-9985. And the best email is support@pureexperts.com. And I'm going to come back to this session a little bit later on. So Sal, if you want to do, I said that the later session, the evening sessions, will not be broadcasted. Do you want to do the broadcast at 6:30? I want to finish that whole segment. So that's how we're going to do it. But at this point, thank you very much. And we'll be talking with you through the TV, and contact information is readily available. We have great programs, great certification programs, as you see. And for me, this has been a joyful day. So thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to the next conversation.
Andy, Sal, thank you. And audience, thank you for attending. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Yo, Algonquin, feel the flow. Golden jewelry, direct calls. South Main Street 13 gold shines. Hit the deal. At Golden Jewelry, direct gold rings sparkle bright. Silver coins, gold chains, custom engagement delight. Sell low damaged jewelry, no worries, cash in hand. Buy silver smart, invest now. Feel the grand. Algonquin 13 Rio, South Main Street, where gold magic happens. Jewelry complete. Call 847-345-8089. Don't delay. Sell, buy, shine in the house where
we drop golden jewelry direct. Algonquin crew. Buy silver, sell old jewels. Well, what you gonna do? 847-345-8089. Call now, no wait. Turn trash to cash. Elevate your fate.
oh yeah, gold rings.
Silver coins, custom rings. Let's glow.
Gold chain swinging, silver coins stacking high. Custom engagement rings, many styles to try. Damaged or old, we take it all, no fuss. Algonquin vibe, energy rush. Algonquin 13 Hill, South Main Street. Gold dreams waiting, jewelry elite. Call 847-345-8089. Team on fire, buy, sell, feel the desire.
God bless USA and Des Plaines, Illinois. Today we play volleyball. Tomorrow we buy gold jewelry.